Hi, everyone. Hello. Okay, we are all set here. Welcome. So glad you could join us today. We are talking about magic in a bottle, otherwise known as UV resin. This is such a versatile crafting material, particularly for making very small things like jewelry. So we are going to make some really fun fruit jewelry today that are all about bezels. So if you are a beginner, a complete beginner to jewelry crafting, resin crafting, this is the class for you. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about bezels. What are bezels? How do you use them? And how do you get the most out of them? So I'm so happy to share this craft with you. Before we get started, just a few safety precautions. You want to make sure you're working in a well-ventilated area. You also don't want to work near like a bright, sunny, open window because the sun coming in is going to cure this product sooner than you want it to. So not in direct sunlight. And we're going to go over all the supplies you need here in just a minute. We're going to flip the camera, and these are the projects that we're going to be working on today. We have 2 necklaces and 2 pairs of earrings here in this fruit theme. And these are surprisingly easier to make than you think, and they're done in just minutes. So before we get into our first project, let me just move this to the side here. And let's talk about the supplies that I have and bezels in general. So first of all, this blue thing that I have here is a silicone mat. So I can roll it up and we have white underneath it. But this is a silicone mat. Now, resin does not stick to silicone. So a lot of the tools and things that we're using are made of silicone. Everything that I'm showing you is available at Michael's in stores and on .com. The next thing I have is this. This is a UV light. So if I hit the button, it turns it on. You can see the lights under there. This is a 9-watt UV light. This plugs into a USB and it runs for 1 minute. If I hit it, it turns on and off. And then we have the resin itself. So this is a 60 milliliter bottle. We have a couple sizes of this in store, everything from tiny little one to big one. This is 25 milliliter, and this is, oh, it doesn't even fit the screen. This is 200 milliliter. Let me raise this up a little bit. So you have a range of sizes of this product. This is all clear UV resin. It all cures in minutes. And it cures to a hard finish. So you can see here, this is hard type UV resin. There are some other types of UV resin out there, a soft type that we do sell. None of our projects are using the soft type resin. These are all using hard type resin, which when it's exposed to UV light, it cures to like a plastic or glass-like hard finish. So what else do I have here? I have some wood sticks over here and some mixing bowls, silicone mixing bowls. So here's the mixing bowl. And this is what that comes in a package at the store. You get a bowl, some different sticks. These are plastic stirrers, which are great if you're mixing kind of a larger amount. I also have some tints. So this fruit jewelry are bright colors, so we need to be able to tint that. These are the tints available. So you've got kind of your primaries and then white, black, red over here. So we're going to be using pretty much all of these colors today. And then we cannot forget about the bezels themselves. So this is a package of bezels. You get 4 of them in here. This is the circle, but they come in a lot of different shapes. And this is what it looks like out of the package. So these are open back bezels. So these work great with UV resin and other types of resin because you're taking advantage of the open back by using a clear material in there. This is also a bezel. This is a closed back or kind of a traditional bezel. This also works with resin. It's just, in my opinion, a little less fun than doing something that is transparent. But these absolutely work as well. And Michael's does carry both. So this is also a bezel. This is a little cherry. If you want something that's a deeper bezel, this is our extra deep bezel. So you can see this is like the standard thickness, and this is extra deep. So that's if you are putting a lot of layers, you want to get an extra deep one. But what we're working with right now are just sort of the standard. Okay. All right. So that is basic rundown of the products that we're going to use. Let me bring in, this is our first project, these earrings. So actually you could convert this into earrings. You could convert this into a pendant for a necklace, but it's a little strawberry. Let me show you the back. The back is white. So the first thing we're going to do actually is lay down a layer of white, and that makes all the colors that you put on the top just like so much more vibrant when you have a layer of white in the back. All right, so let's get started. So this starts with a teardrop shape like this, which we first tried to do the strawberries in this orientation. And then we said, well, it looks more strawberry-like to be this way. So we switched this around. It was a little trial and error on our part. We switched this around this way. And so, which means we have to cut off this loop here at the bottom, unless you want to leave that loop and then you can attach something to it, a bead, little crystal there that is dangling. But what we're going to do is just cut it off. So I can go in with a clipper here and clip this off. It's probably going to fly across the room. So I'm trying to shield that. So that just clips right off. Okay, it does leave a little bit of a jaggediness. You could go in with an emery board, kind of just get that jaggediness away, or you could actually use a little drop of UV resin. Oops, and that'll just put a little sheen over it. Okay, so that's what we're working with. Now, to turn it into an earring, right now is just this flat object. To turn it into an earring, we're going to glue these earring backs onto the back of that. And so I'll show you how to do that too. All right, so let's get to the fun stuff. Now, when you're working with bezels, you're going to want to have this product here, which is a special tape. This is a polyester tape that is a low tack. And then you find the end of it. Here it is. And so the way I'm going to prep this bezel is the way that you're going to prep every bezel project that you work with. You start with this tape. So I just cut a piece. And then I stick my bezel onto the sticky side of it. And I'm like kind of like really pressing it down. I really want to make sure that that tape is stuck to the back of this. And then I'm going to show you a little pro tip here. You can fold one corner up, and that's where you can put your fingertip, so you're not touching stickiness. Let me bring you in here. All right. So that's it. That's the prep. We're ready to go straight into the resin. So first we want to mix some white resin. Let me flip this one, keep this one this way, flip this one so you can see. So the first layer that goes on the back there is white. Move him to the side. Okay, here is our silicone mixing cup. So as we go through this project, if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. We have some people from our home office that will get you the answers you need. I can see the chat if I'm not looking down. I'll try to answer your questions live if I see them. Okay, silicone cup. In goes the resin straight out of the bottle. There's no mixing of two parts. You're familiar with two-part resins, two-part epoxies. This just pours out straight. The only thing we're going to mix is tint. And I'm mixing quite a lot of white here because I'm going to use this on the lemon slice too. So then we find our white tint. You want to give these a shake. The tints can separate just a little bit, so you want to shake those up really well. Here's our white tint. And a word to the wise when it comes to tints, a little bit goes a long way. I'm actually going to put 3 drops in here, but these, these colors are very concentrated. So for example, 3 drops of our blue would make it very, very dark. And then I just stir. And so you do want to get this fully incorporated. You don't want any ribbons in here of just tint. All right, that is pretty good. And I think that it's just about opaque enough. I could add another little drop of white, but I think that we're good. One supply that I didn't mention was a paper towel here off to the side. That is just great for wiping your stick off. Okay, so we got our white. Now this will not start to harden until you expose it to the UV light. It will stay in its liquid form forever, indefinitely, under regular household light, fluorescent light. It is up to you when you want to cure it. Okay, and then we go straight in with the white. And really what I'm doing is just creating a small layer here in the bottom. So I drop that in, and then I can go in with my stick and just move that around. I want to make sure that that white touches the sides. Here we go. All right, that is looking good to me. Now, let me wipe my stick off. I mixed all this extra white. I am going to put this to the side. I want to make sure that no light, no UV light hits this. So I'm like hiding this over there. And then we bring our light in. So when I hit that button, it's going to run for 1 minute. Let's talk about cure time. So 1 minute may be the cure time that you need for a project that just uses clear resin in a very thin layer. But typically you need 2 to 4 minutes or so for projects where you have tints, anything that's blocking the light. If you're putting glitter in there, if you're putting tint, if you're putting flowers, anything that will block this light, you'll just need to cure it for a little bit longer. It also does cure in the sun. So for a change of pace, or if you're working during the daytime, you can put it on a tray out in the sunlight. If it's bright sunlight, you may only need 5 to 7 minutes curing in the sun. Even on, kind of a semi-cloudy day or not direct sunlight, it will still cure, but you may need 20 minutes outside. But we're still talking about like instant gratification crafting here. Okay, so that ran for a minute. And let's show you what I got here. Oh, I can see that I didn't get the white. Let's see if I turn it this way. I didn't get the white onto that little side there, so let me fix that. Bring in more white. Just generally, layering is your friend with UV resin. The more layers, the better, because then you can control what you're doing. So I'm just going to add another little thin layer. Make sure that's even. Wipe my stick off and bring the light in. So let's talk about the light while this is curing. This is our standard light. As I said, it's a 9 watt. We also offer a flashlight version. So here's like the flashlight. This is also a UV light. And this one is great if you want to bring the light to your project. With this one, since it's plugged into the wall, you kind of need to bring your project to the light. But it's really up to you how you prefer to cure. All right, first layer just about complete. I saw a question pop up. What is your trick for removing bubbles? Well, with UV resin, bubbles aren't really that much of a problem. If I zoom this in, which I'm going to try to get this as close as possible, you can see it. I did end up with, I'd say, 2 like noticeable small bubbles. You can just, the easiest way to deal with bubbles is just pop them, like use this pointy end of your stick and just pop them before they cure. Or if you can't pop them, use this end of your stick and just kind of scoop out where that bubble lives. That's the easiest way to deal with it, but they're not really that much of a problem. Not like 2-part epoxies where bubbles are like everywhere. All right, so next thing we have to mix up a red color. So new silicone cup, new resin pouring out of the bottle. You can see in that pour, if I bring this up, you can see I did get a couple bubbles there. Some of them will pop on their own. This one, for example, I can just pop it myself. So you can kind of just get them. When the bubbles are really small, they're hard to pop, so you kind of have to scoop them out. Okay, so for this, we have a red tint. Let me shake this one up. Shake, shake, shake. Yeah, I see a lot of people using lighters to get rid of bubbles, especially with 2-part resin. You can do that with this product. I just never recommend for people to use fire among their like crafting supplies. So I prefer to just pop them. All right, so I put 2 small drops. I think I'm going to put another drop in there because I want it to be like a vibrant red. You'll get a feel as you start to use these tints, how concentrated they are. Because in most cases, you're only mixing a very small, this is, you know, what is this? A teaspoon, less than a teaspoonful of resin. So it doesn't require a lot of tint. Okay, so there's our red. And now that goes in. All right, and now I'm not looking to fill it to the top. We still are going to coat the top with a clear layer. But I do want to make sure that I drag it to all the edges. And it makes contact with the walls here. Okay. All right, wiping my stick off. I've noticed on the side here, I got a little drop of the white resin, but I'll show you how to clean that up. All right, well, that's looking good to me. I'm not really seeing, I see a couple bubbles here. I could go in and try to pop them, but they're going to be mostly covered up. Let's get you in really close to this. I can see something up here. But I'm going to be covering that up with some greenery, so I'm not really worried about those tiny, tiny bubbles. All right, and then we're ready to cure for our second layer. So for each of these layers, I'm really only curing for 1 minute. With a thin layer, as I said, 1 minute, especially if it's just a layer that I'm curing, I will just cure it for 1 minute. If it's the top layer, I'll probably cure it for a few minutes, and that gets rid of any surface tackiness. You may find that you have some surface tackiness on your pieces. The best way that I found to prevent that is to put it on a sunny windowsill for a few minutes. And that just you cannot compare with a UV light that comes from the sun. We try to match that in this tiny little lamp here, but in the sun is just, you get this deep, pure cure. And so I found that that's the way to, if you have any surface tackiness or lingering tackiness, then that's the best way. All right, so that went for a minute. I am going to cure it again just because I did put a lot of tint in there. But if I tap this with my stick, I don't know if you can hear that, but it is already, at least the surface of it is already cured. Okay, so while that's going, we are going to talk about the next step, which is adding flowers. Let me bring this up. Okay, so we sell, along with all of these products at Michael's, we sell these dried flowers. We have a lot of different dried flowers. This one is a mixture where you're getting some little greenery pieces, some like sunflowery, daisy looking, and these like lace flowers over here. So lots of different types, and they come in different colors too. So here's an example. So these are just one type of flower that we carry. There's a lot of other types of flowers, from hydrangea petals and little leaves, clovers. But for this, we are using these flowers, which I have right here. And this is what's inside that package. These are very delicate. So handling them with tweezers is helpful. We are going to be using these for our little strawberry greenery. And we are going to be using these for the little like seeds. Okay. So I do want to cut these apart. So I can just go in with some scissors. And I just want to get these little end buds here. You don't have to be super precious about this. These cut up are gorgeous, even if you're kind of hacking at them like I am. Okay. All right, and let's also cut these. So here I'm trying to get like individual little sprigs, I guess I would call it. Let's see on this side. I mean, these are natural products, so every package you open is going to be slightly different. But there, I think that is good. And save this for later. Okay. All right, next layer. Now we're going to go over this with clear, just to give it a little bit of tackiness to it, so we can lay down our flowers very easily. So I'm going to lay this out in a layer, always making sure I'm making contact with these outside walls. And now my wooden stick has some resin on it, and I can use that to pick up individual little seeds and place them into that resin. And now you can use a lot of different things for these seeds. You could use little drops of paint. You could use beads. What I'm going to show you on the watermelon piece that we make, you can use marker. Here we go. All right, how does that? Oh, I'm crooked over here. Let's move it this way. Okay. All right, maybe one more in this corner. Oh, some more. You can never have too much. It's just so cute and it's so easy. You can just keep like adding these forever. Okay, so there, I feel good about that placement. Let us add the little greenery. So the challenge here is that the greenery, you need to make sure that it stays within your frame here. So I can see that I'm going to want to cut these up a little bit smaller. Ooh. There you go. Okay, so same thing with a wood stick. I'm going to start laying these in here. You can put a little bit, you can put a lot. It's really up to you. But the thing you don't want to do is get it over that edge. And what you don't want to do is get one of the white flowers up here. So let me get that out. Okay. This little guy, we'll put him right there. Cute. Maybe I just need a little something in this corner, I feel like. You can layer them on top of each other. I don't like that one. Here we go. This one's a very pretty one, so let's put him front and center. Ooh. Oh, come on. There you go. All right, now let's just get everything in place. Just making sure that it's all sunk down into that resin. We're going to do one final coat on the top of this. Okay, well, I'm happy with that. And let's cure that layer. Okay, you guys still with me? Do I have anyone that's crafting along with me? Raise your hand. I can't see all of you. But I hope that you are crafting along with me. I hope that you will give this a chance. Question from Leslie, is there any way we could see the item at a slant before you add the resin? I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Like, see it like this before I add the resin? I'm not sure. I'll try to show whatever the next fruit. So we can see the depth of it right now. Yep. Okay, here. All right, that was just clear on the top. Let me just, okay, so that's locked in. I'm gonna do this so you can see. I'm like right at the top. You could see it a lot better when that light was on. Here, I'm like right at the top, but not over the top. So all of my elements, my leaves and flowers are still below the level of the metal frame, the bezel. Okay, all right, so final steps here. We want to create this nice, like kind of dome top finish that this has. This has just like a smooth, and if I show that on a slant, you can see it's just slightly bubbled up there. So what this does is it just makes sure all of those elements are under resin. And it has like a doming effect when you put this on top, and it kind of like magnifies what is underneath it. So just carefully going around the edges here, bringing that final layer to the edges. And I see one bubble here that I'm trying to get out of there. Nope. That one doesn't want to scoop out. There. Okay. All right. So that's our final layer. Let's bring this in, and then I'll show you from the side if we were able to achieve like a dome on top of there. Okay, so while that's going, let me clean up. As I said, if you have any questions, do ask them in the chat. We will try to help you out here. We want to encourage you to try this craft. It may be a little intimidating at first, but I'm hoping that after we have this class together, you will try it out. Okay. Okay, so how do we turn this into something? I have the Mega Findings pack. I'm going to show you a couple different options here. So the first option are these items in the jewelry making department at Michael's. And this is just a flat pad earring. So you could turn anything with a flat back, thank you, into an earring using this. And you were going to glue that on using the resin. I'm going to let this go one more minute. This is another item I want to show you. This is the Mega Findings pack. This set is so helpful because with resin jewelry crafting, sometimes there are specialty findings that you need in order to turn what you've made into jewelry. And so this contains all of those things together. So you have some basics like jump rings, but you also have these little screw eyes, which you can use to turn anything into a hanging pendant or a hanging charm. Similar, these cap bails do kind of the same thing. Those flat back earring posts, we have them too, only ours have a little bit of a smaller, let me show to compare. It's a smaller pad. This is a 4mm pad, and this is, I believe, an 8mm pad. So you can attach it to smaller things. We also have some pin blanks, so I could turn this into a super cute little pin or brooch for my jacket. So those findings are included in here. On this side, we have some bails, clear bails, which would turn this into a pendant, and some other assorted earring parts, but all of them come in a little plastic little container that looks like this. This is a container of glitter, but so it's all contained and ready to use. So I'm going to show you how to use a couple of these. Could I have a clear bail? Okay, so here's what we have. Here's the side of it. You can see I did get a little bit of a dome on top. And I also, in getting that dome, I overflowed. Uh-oh, right here, overflow. But this gives me a chance to show you what to do if you overflow. So first, I'm just taking it off of the tape. This tape, you'll notice, is way stickier now. That is common because it does get stickier when you use it, which is why we start out with a low tack tape. Nail clipper, that is a great idea to use on this. I am going to use, oh, here it is, one of these, and I just snip it off. Let me see here. Snip it off. I can kind of like get in there with my edge and scrape a little bit. If it really bothers me, I can go in with an emery board and just kind of scoot that away. But there it is. Okay, so on the back, so if I wanted to turn it into a stud earring, I would add this up at the top. And I add that just by using a drop of glue. Sorry, not glue, resin. Oh, this is my show bottle of resin. Here's my real bottle of resin here. So if I wanted to turn this into a stud earring, I would just glue this down on there and then cure it. If I wanted to turn it into a little pin brooch, we have these parts. And I would just, actually, I think I would make one of these since we don't make a lot of pins. So I just sink that down in there and cure it. If I wanted to turn it into, here while that's curing, I'll show you. If I want to turn it into a necklace pendant, we have these clear bales. You could also use a metal bale for this, but the clear ones are good in case you've made a clear object here. And so same thing, I would just glue this up at the top. I would just glue this up at the top using resin as glue. This resin makes an amazing adhesive. So I would just glue that in place, and that would turn this into a pendant. Okay, wow, that project took a longer than I thought. So we are going to move along here. I'll show you this finished piece here in a few minutes. We're going to move along to our second project here, which are these watermelon little slices. So for this one, we're going to use a triangle. And we are going to prep this the very same way we prepped our last one by using the tape. All right, so lay that down, really press it down. I'm pressing it into the silicone, so it has a little bit of leeway. And then we do our first coat, which is clear. Very thin coat. You always want to do a very thin coat to start. On the last piece, we did a thin white coat. And now here, most of the time, you just use clear. So kind of dragging that resin down. All right, let's cure it. So we're gonna let that go for 1 minute. In the meantime, I'll show you what I have over here. So I have attached this. So this is now a little mini brooch. How cute is that? All right, so while this is curing, I'm going to try to start mixing. Oh, I don't need to mix my first color. Actually, I have it right here. The first color I'm going to use is white. Because if you see our example here, the first thing I'm going to do is create this white line. And that will help separate this green part from the pink part. So we're going to try doing that white line first. All right, so I always give it a little tap just to make sure it is hardened. I'm going to bring my white resin back so you can see that it is still liquid. And now here is I want to get into some detail work here. I want to create as thin of a line as possible across the top of that. Let me bring you in just a little bit. So I want to go in with the pointy part of my stick into the resin, and we're kind of like painting with it. It's okay if it's a little thicker than you want to be. We're going to be doing a couple layers of this, but always making sure to like make contact with the other side of metal there. Okay, and before that spreads any, I'm curing it. So when I cure it, I take my white away. I don't want this light to hit it, but I want to lock that in place. And we're going to go over top of that line and make it thicker. I saw a question come up. I didn't quite read the whole thing. It said, can you layer more resin? I think. Oh, how to get rid of fingerprints. Yeah, it's fingerprints. If you put white, just clear resin over a fingerprint, it obscures it. And so it really helps to hide it. Okay. All right, so that's gone about a minute. I'm going to bring my white resin back in and just build up on top of that. I'm like creating a wall here. Thin layers. I really want my first inclination is to like really like put a lot of this there, but no, I have to make sure that's thin layers because it will spread. And then you don't want that. Thank you, Leslie, for your questions. And thank you to everyone who's crafting along with us and trying out this amazing product. I am obsessed with it. Once you start, you're headed for obsession because it is so easy and quick to make something, and it makes the simplest projects look very expensive. So great for gift giving. If you make jewelry and sell it, try it out. Okay, so that's gone almost a minute. Let me see what we have here. I don't know. I think I'm going to put one little, I wanted the wall to be slightly taller because I really want to flood the earring on the top part with green and on the bottom part with pink. So I'm just going to make that wall one more layer thick and cure that. While that's curing, I'm going to start doing my other colors here. Let's see. I don't want this to touch the light. Okay, so let's try to do it in this bottom corner. We need to mix a transparent pink and a tiny bit of green. All right, here we go. A little bit of green. Okay, transparent pink. All right, we do have a pink here. Give it a shake. I'm going to add the smallest little drop that I can manage. That's it, because I want to keep it with that transparency. It looks very cool. I'm also going to add some glitter. This is just a white, like a clear AB glitter. Add a little bit of that in there too. Okay, and this side we're making green. And it may help for you to take a little scrap piece of paper. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow tint on that and a little bit of blue. These can go very concentrated very quickly. So putting your tint on a little slip of paper next to it helps you add just what you need. So I'm going to add, see that tiny little bit of yellow, and then an even tinier microscopic bit of blue. Okay, maybe a little more than that. You can see just that little bit on the top of the stick makes a difference. You can always add more. Okay, maybe a little more yellow. Okay, that looks like, that looks good. All right, we move this. And here's our pink. A little bit of glitter in there. Glitter makes all the difference. Okay. Okay, so we have our two colors. And let's bring him back. And now we fill. So the silicone cup, very flexible. You know, I can squeeze this to get more of a precision application here, or you can just kind of scoop up, scoop by scoop with your wood stick. I'm going to try to do it this way. Now you notice that I got some bubbles here. These bubbles are caused because when I was mixing that color, I was whipping air into it because I'm kind of in a hurry. I want to get through all of these projects so you can see them. So that can cause some bubbles. So just be careful. Here's my pink. Oh, geez. Got a big drop there by accident. That's okay. All right. Now, before that moves around too much, I'm just going to cure it into place. And then we're going to add some little dots here. These are just done with a permanent marker, Sharpie marker of some kind. And we may not have time to get through all of the projects that I wanted to show you today, but I do want to do some show and tell. So the same techniques that I've shown you in this class, you can make any type of fruit or any type of icon, period. Here's an example using the same techniques that I showed you. The only difference is that we made a little swirl. So when the resin was wet, we swirled it around and created this sort of galaxy. Here we did a beach theme, and this was made by dropping clear resin into wet white resin. You get these little water droplet effects. Here we did some stripes of glitter, just using the same techniques that I showed you. Dried flowers. Here's some more dried flower pieces. I just adore this one. Look how pretty that is. Now we have not added necklaces or earring hooks to any of these. I'm just showing you possibilities. This one I also love using dried flowers. Let me do that again. So this one uses dried flowers with a little bit of a pink background. This uses dried flowers with a clear background. So pretty. Other things that you can put in the resin: pictures, papers, stickers. You can sink that all down. You sandwich it between layers. So the top of this is protected. This is just a sticker from the sticker aisle at Michael's that we sandwiched down in between there. This is a photo printed out on just a regular printer. Cut it to size and sink it down inside the resin. And now for more advanced folks, you can make your own bezels. This is a homemade bezel made from some wire. If you are familiar with wire working, maybe you've taken one of the great classes that Bezel offers here, you can make your own bezel in any shape. So this is a simple teardrop shape, but here we made these super fun New Year's champagne flutes. This is just made from using Bezel wire and forming it and then doing all the steps that I just showed you. So really the possibilities are endless when you're talking about bezels because you can custom do bezels. All right, so here's what we have. Let's add some watermelon seeds. Okay, and then we're going to put a final coat of resin on the top of that. That'll just seal those into place and then hopefully get us a little more of a domey effect. And I'm going to try not to overflow this time. So less is more. Dragging it down here to the point. And I kind of want to go around the edges so there's no like puckering, I guess you could call it. All right, we're ready to do this. Okay, I just have a few more minutes with you. I want to walk you through, now that you know the basics, I can walk you through how to make something like this. This is our lemon slice. Yes, you drop the clear on top of the white before you cure the white. So here's our lemon slice. We started with a layer of yellow in the back. And then just like I painted on the watermelon rind, I used white and painted on spokes, and then actually went back in with some more yellow to create a little more dimensional. You can kind of see if you look, there's slightly more dimensional little segments inside here, but same techniques. And one more that I'm going to show you is here. This one we turned into a necklace. Again, same techniques. This is just mixing up two different colors, a red glitter and a green glitter, pouring those into the spots where I want it to go and curing. All right, so this has been under there for 2 minutes. Let's see what we have. So here it is. Now I'm going to show you how to turn that into an earring. So you can see you need 2 parts. You need a jump ring and an earring hook. So I have those here. All right, so what you want to do is take your jump ring, find the break in the jump ring. I can see it up there. You want to use tools for this. I have 2 tools here, pliers, and you want to open your jump ring like this. I'm bending it open, putting that through, adding the hook that already has a loop at the end, and just closing the jump ring. You do that in the opposite motion that you opened it. Boom. And that closes it. And here you have an earring ready in just a few minutes. There you go. Okay, so I will leave you with a call to action, and that is, I hope that you all will try this and let us know how it worked. We want to hear from you. Post your creations on social media with this hashtag UVResinCraft. That's the same name that's on the front of all of our packages here, so that should be easy for you to remember. You can connect with our company on Facebook and Instagram at bluemoonstudio.co. And you can connect with me personally on Instagram. I love it when people tag me in what they make. I get so excited that you have tried something new, and it just makes my day to see what you can make. Thank you so much for joining us. We are doing another one of these classes about once a month. And the next class that we do is going to be a premium class. So these are new paid classes for a very small fee that are even more in depth to take your skills to the next level. Thank you so much for joining us. Do look out for that premium class, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.